Hey, so I made a promise a long time ago to make a video about how you use an iPad and why it's the #1 tool. Let's just start off with, let's say, how you get your lectures and how the information gets to you in the first place, how the school provides your information. So they provide all their information through lectures, through PDFs. And so, for example, I'm on the school's website right now. I'm gonna open up whatever subject we're talking about. It's all in order. I'll go say week 1, for example, and then lecture notes, and I will go ahead and download the first lecture. As you can see, extremely easy. This is the lecture that we're gonna have to be reviewing and going through and memorizing and whatnot. If I want to make changes to this, and this is where the whole learning process is, marking things up and breaking down the slides and all that stuff. So I go ahead, I'll open it in Notability. Notability is an app that a lot of us use who have an iPad. It's pretty good. They make great improvements to it that have really just made it a lot easier to use. So I'm importing it right now, and there you go. That's the whole PDF is right here. And I will just go ahead and naturally, what I would do is download the PDF. I would split screen it. So this is why I always recommend having the biggest size, because I could do this. And this makes things so much easier. And then I would go ahead and pull up the lecture, and that's, for example, right here, right? So they have all the lectures recorded, so I'd like to listen to it again for a second time, and in a couple seconds I'll be able to have both the lecture and the lecture notes going simultaneously.
Okay, so today we have two big
and
topics.
let me just go ahead and, right? So there you go. Split screening is great. You don't have to look at multiple screens, and you can just look at one thing, one device. Your backpack won't be super heavy, all that stuff. So now you see how you could use it for watching lectures and taking notes at the same time. Now I want to show you how you could actually take notes. So Notability is the app we were talking about. As you can see to my left here is where you keep all your, mine is organized by modules, so FTM1, FTM2, MSK, things like that. And within those modules, I could have multiple tabs. And there's lectures, practice questions, and labs, you see? So they're all here. It's a great way to keep all your notes organized, because you're gonna get thousands and thousands and thousands of PDFs over your time here. So this is a great way to get started with that. So let's just go into one of the lectures like I was talking about before, and I wanted to show you. So here's the lecture notes, the assigned readings if you have time, and the objectives, right? So here's where you could pay attention to just keep in mind when you see certain things: sickle cell anemia, cystic fibrosis, stuff like that. Becker's and Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So here is, so those are just things you want to keep in mind for when you read through the lecture, right? So here's the little trick I like to do. I just like to take the name of whatever disease we're talking about, and you always want to pay attention to what type of inheritance goes along with that disease, right? So cystic fibrosis is an autosomal recessive disorder. And one trick I like to do, I just kind of picked up just to help me out, is I like to take the first 2 letters of the name of the disease and add what type of inheritance it is. So it's autosomal recessive. So I say cystic fibrosis, CFAR. And it's kind of apparent right there. It's just, oh, CFAR. So every time you see cystic fibrosis, automatically just pop into your head CFAR. And you could kind of make little mnemonics or little, play on words just to try and help you remember. And that works for a lot of them. So that's a cool little tip. And you always want to remember these inheritance patterns, because these could be easy answers on the test and get you a couple free points. So this is where I really love the iPad, because of all the annotating, right? It's so natural. It comes along so quickly, and you could do a lot within a matter of seconds, as opposed to opening something on your laptop and opening up a note next to it, stuff like that, right? So like, for example, just simple
medical jargon or medical vocabulary or words, steatorrhea. That sounds weird, but back then in my term 1, I put too much fat in stool, right? So that's just how I could always just keep track of stuff like that, right? Just helps you writing it out. When you write it out, kind of helps you remember it. So as you can see, I go crazy with all this stuff. I start circling chromosome 7. You want to remember that cystic fibrosis is on chromosome 7. Again, look, autosomal recessive disorder. These are PDFs that are put together by your professors so that it's whatever they think is important, right? So the diagrams that they choose, they feel that is a good way of explaining how the pathogenesis or the mechanism of the disease works. I could just start annotating stuff that helps me remember, or just extra notes that I remember in class, and I could jot it down while in class, while watching the lectures, all that stuff. So it's a deletion, right? CFTR is a mutation that ends up in a deletion of a part of your chromosome, and that ends up in a frame shift mutations. Elevated sweat chloride test is the gold standard, for testing patients who are suspected to have the cystic fibrosis disease. You could change the thickness of your pencils, so you could write smaller or bigger. You could change the colors of your highlighters. So I could go crazy with my highlighting. When you're in class, you're going to get these questions they're called clicker questions. That's how the school takes your attendance, and that's where having an iPad is really cool. You could just lift up your iPad with the lecture note open, take a photo, and then you just click that right there, and it'll pop open the camera. You could just snap this photo, and then you could answer it later, or whatever the answer is. I don't know. I'm not going to read it. But yeah, it's a great way to just pop that right in there so you could remember that question, or come back to it if it didn't make sense while in class.
Another thing you could do is, for example, have a textbook side by side. So you could have your actual step book, the book that you're going to need to memorize and know in and out by the end of your 2 years here. And you could start, comparing it, making notes. If you find something that you like in lecture, and if you want to, just copy and paste that right into your first aid book, you can do searches, right? So I could just type in any word. I could type in Hashimoto's, and in a few seconds, I'll be able to pull up that exact page and learn everything I can about that. So within seconds, as opposed to getting the book and flipping through that page and trying to remember where it is. So just that finding function is really good. Now, another thing that I like to do is questions, right? You have these required, they actually practice questions, and you got to do your practice questions in order to really get the material down. And I want to show you what the practice questions actually look like. And I keep pressing the wrong thing. What happened to that one thing I just clicked? Hold on.
I get my practice questions. I can read it. I could highlight whatever I think is important. Sore gums, loose teeth. It's talking about vitamin C, and it's asking the function of it, so I could just keep that in mind. I could circle it, be like, oh yeah, these are the keywords I want to remember. When you are doing your questions and you know which one is right, they often tell you to reason out why the other questions are wrong, and you could start doing that, right? See, I'm like, her daily requirement of fiber is 300 grams a day. No, that's not correct. It's 20 to 30 grams a day. So leucine and lysine are non-essential amino acids. I cross non out because it is an essential amino acid. I could write down my little mnemonics right here to help me remember stuff, and I could do calculations out like right here, right on the spot. No need to grab an extra piece of paper or anything like that. If I don't know something, I'm gonna put question marks everywhere. If I need a friend to explain it to me later, I'm gonna have a big question mark, or I'm gonna circle it in pink, stuff like that. If I get a question wrong, I'm gonna highlight that question in pink, so when I'm flipping through these questions, right before the test, I understand, I see that, big pink circle. I'm like, oh yeah, I have to come back to this because I didn't get it right the first time. So at the same time, you could have your lecture notes, right up beside it. And so if you saw something that you didn't understand, I could be like, oh, wait, this is talking about nitrogen or ghrelin, right? This is talking about ghrelin. I have no idea what ghrelin is. I'm going to click on this side where my lecture is. I'm going to search it. I'm going to be like, ghrelin. It's not going to pop up because this is a different lecture, but the slide would pop up and I'll be like, oh, here's, where it's talking about ghrelin. And I'll just, circle. I'll find the reason why I got the answer wrong over here, and I'll be able to answer it better or remember it next time.
It's just the perfect way to tackle your questions. Lastly, one more thing, labs. I want to show you what labs look like.
You're going to have labs every, about 3 to 4 times a week, and you're going to be working together with your small group and presenting on these lab assignments. And so the more you could edit, label, identify all these, structures, the easier your time in lab will be during lab. And you could just go ahead, if you got something wrong, you'd be like, oh, that's not that, that's, this or something like that, right? So you can make corrections while in lab, while on the go, very fast. This would be very hard to label on a laptop, right? I'm gonna go ahead right at the top. I'm gonna write out that this is a simple columnar epithelium. As you can see, that's what it looks like. It's just little columns. And this is stuff that they like to focus on in your first term. The type of cells that line, certain lumen, or, stuff like that. So I could identify stuff like I'm saying, this right here is a plasma cell. This right here are, fibroblasts. And look, I could just add another page and add some more notes to it. For the reticular fibers in the lymph node, I'm gonna say I'm saying there's type 3 collagen. This is a silver stain, it's high magnification. There's stuff that you're gonna have to know and be able to talk about freely while in your lab. It could really help you understand some of this stuff and also get you some good points on the test.
You would just get pictures like this, and you would need to mark this up. It would be really hard to mark this up and circle really important things that are really small and label them on a laptop. Of course, you need your laptop to take the tests, but you can carry this in your book bag and you'll be okay. Like, this is the only item that you need. You can share files with friends. If you see a good picture that they have and you are a good resource and then you want that, they could airdrop it to you in a second. Airdropping textbooks and stuff like that, practice questions could take up to seconds, and that's it. That's when you would notice this being most helpful, is for labs especially. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hope this helps give you an idea of what it's like and why you need an iPad. So definitely the best thing I bought and purchased and the best tool that I use every day in medical school. Thanks, bye.